comorbidities. They've got other illnesses, whether it be hypertension, asthma, emphysema, whatever the comorbidity, every one of them to the point has had comorbidities. And so then the question that you ask is, well, would they have died anyways and their infection with the coronavirus was just incidental? And that's why we have to wait for the medical exam. That's going to take them quite a while. As you know, the medical examiner, their final answers often don't take until about 6 months. So right now, as we talk about these, I'm saying these are all coronavirus associated or coronavirus related deaths, because you're exactly right, we can't say for certain. However, in all of these cases that we know, these are folks that to the best of my knowledge, have expired because of what appears to be the classic coronavirus pathology. In other words, it's been respiratory. We've been unable to, the hospitals have been unable to maintain the oxygenation of their blood. Their lungs have become severely damaged. And so at this point, they appear like it's coronavirus, heavily influenced by the coronavirus. But you're right, they have all, so far, they have all had some underlying illness. Now again, the take home from this is that Houston is doing a good job. What we're doing is working. If you look at our neighbors, New Orleans, which is similar in many ways in terms of at least weather, it's flat, it has a population density not terribly different from Houston's, and their situation is far worse, unfortunately. So this is a time to reflect on what has been being done is working, but we need to keep on doing it.
Mayor, they're extending their stay-at-home order until May 20th. Should Harris County do the same? Have you and the county judge had any discussions on that, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, as possible, we align Houston-Harris County with the president's social distancing, April 30th. The governor's now April 30th in terms of the stay home for the state of Texas. Many of the other cities, April 30th. So I think we just extended the stay the judge did to April 30th. So I think that's a solid date. And I think now it's just important on us for the next 28 days to really hunker down, to be very, very intentional in this social distancing, to take it very seriously. Let's concentrate on the next 28 days without even talking about going beyond that. Our goal line is April the 30th. And I would love to be able to be here and stand before you and say on April the 30th, we flattened out that curve and we kept it within our ability to handle it, our hospitals. To me, that would be a big victory for all of us.
And speaking of hospitals, where we are as far as our ICU beds, how many we have and what the capacity is?
And we do. The goal is to start providing you with some of those numbers, the number of beds, the utilization rate, in terms of ICU beds, the utilization rates. I can tell you as of today, we have capacity for our ICU beds. And I'm just not speaking of the city of Houston, I'm talking about Harris County, Galveston, Fort Bend, Montgomery, Brazoria, Livingston, Chambers. It's this whole Houston region. So there is capacity for ICU beds, for general admission beds, for ventilators. There is capacity, and we're operating within it for today.
I have a question, if you don't mind. This,
sure.
And Dr. Hurst could also maybe take this as well, but NBC put out a report showing somewhat of a number that doesn't seem to be reported here, where there's a steep increase in 4 days, up 40% with the number of patient admissions that are showing signs of people who might be suffering from coronavirus. And they're also citing statistics coming from the Southeast Texas Regional Advisory Council that shows the daily census of area hospitals here are much higher, a surge. Though we are hearing, through this news conference that there's confidence that our hospital system can manage that. So where is the disconnect there when we're seeing those types of numbers? Thank you, Dr.
I hear you. So I don't know the NBC report you're talking about, but I can talk to the CETRAC numbers. And we are seeing an increasing number of patients who are admitted with the diagnosis of COVID-19. It gets very confusing when you look at the data, because there's two types of patients when we talk about COVID. Those are those that are diagnosed, it's confirmed that they have it, and then there are also the ones that we call the persons under investigation, the PUI, which means we suspect, or the people in the hospital suspect that they may be infected. They've sent off the lab, but the lab test isn't back yet. And as we've talked about so many times, depending on what lab the test is sent to, it can be up to 10 days before we get an answer. And so you're right, and as I talk to my colleagues in the hospitals, they are seeing an increasing number of people coming through the emergency department and being admitted, and even in the ICU. So the numbers are going up. At the same time, the hospitals are doing a lot of things to reduce the occupancy in the hospital for the other illnesses. So, for example, all the elective surgeries have been eliminated, and therefore there's vacancy that develops within the hospital. And so, as the mayor pointed out, we still have vacancy. The COVID-19 patients are starting to take up that vacancy, but they've not eliminated the vacancy. And so both statements are true. The takeaway from that is what we're doing is working. That's why today we're still within the capacity, but we need to keep on doing it. When you're going through heck, you keep on going, right? We need to keep on doing what we're doing, and hopefully we won't get above the capacity. But you're right, both those statements are true.
A follow-up, what a lot of we've seen is Texas and the Southeast region the next hotspot for coronavirus, and are we prepared for a surge?
Yeah. I take the attitude, every place in the United States is a hotspot. And if they don't think they're a hotspot, there soon will be a hotspot. So the best thing is to assume that every place is a hotspot. If there's coronavirus, you're in a hotspot, okay? Because it starts with one and then the mushroom. In terms of our planning, there are 3 stages of preparation. One is under the current system right now. That's plan A. The second is the surge preparation within your existing healthcare delivery system and their ability to handle the surge capacity, okay? And they are planning for that. That is within the healthcare delivery system. Plan 3 is when it exceeds the surge capacity for our healthcare delivery system, and then we need to set up additional capacity outside of the walls of our hospitals. And if you notice, like last Sunday, many of us were touring particular facilities that could turn into potential hospitals outside. That's for what I consider to be the worst case scenario when you exceed the surge capacity that's within the hospitals. We are planning even now for all 3 scenarios. We're in scenario 1 right now. Down the road, we could find ourselves in scenario 2, surge capacity within the hospitals. And then down the road, we could find ourselves for scenario 3, having to set up additional capacity outside of our hospitals. We are planning for all 3 right now. Dr. Percy?
Contingency planning for Plan C is ongoing. In fact, we have plans going back to 2009 with the pandemic flu plan. Things have changed, and we're trying to operationalize those, and it's probably a little bit too early for us to give any specifics because they're going to want to ask questions about it. We're not ready to give those specifics yet. But rest assured, we're spending many, many hours working on those because there's many moving pieces.
Chief Acevedo, you've talked about the wars we've been talking the last couple of days about the compassionate release. Asking is, what is your position on the Judge Hidalgo release, which actually, I don't know if you to clarify your thoughts on those.
Well, actually, there's been a lot of confusion in this thing because there are several moving parts. The compassionate release, which is what Judge Hidalgo's been working on and consulting with the mayor and with the sheriff, is something that the police department absolutely supports. But there's a second piece. There's litigants, the same litigants that sued on the misdemeanor bail that want to get a lot of other people out of jail, including violent felons, and that we do not support, and neither does any of the other chiefs in the area or the sheriff. And so we actually had a conference call with all the law enforcement today, and we all support true compassionate release of nonviolent. And when you look at the judge's orders and you actually look at the declaration that we put in for the lawsuit, the judge's order actually includes just about everything we put in our declaration in terms of it being case by case, truly nonviolent, and truly a compassionate release with someone that doesn't belong to be behind jail. Because we agree that $10,000 isn't the issue, it's what was the threat that each person poses in terms of public safety, and I think that's what the order, if it's followed, ended up with for the police department to weigh in on.
Locally is what we've been talking about, the social distancing, avoid large gatherings, all those issues. But in terms of people moving across the country, that is clearly something for America.
Stay where you are. I love you. As I said to a very close friend of mine today, I indicated to him he's outside of Texas, and I told him, please stay where you are and enjoy where you are. I think it's a wonderful place where you are. And those of us in the city of Houston, can see you in about 30 to 45 days, But no traveling right now outside of the state of Texas. Stay where we are. Final questions?
Yeah, I just want one from.
We're going to do Spanish after.
We're gonna break up and do Spanish. Chief Pena is gonna be in one area, Chief Alexander is gonna be another area, and I'm gonna be in the Español, no solamente inglés.
So, the question from Telemundo, is this, I want to answer in English. The Supreme Court of Texas halted evictions proceedings and actions until April for renters. They didn't know if there was any recourse for business owners who may not be able to pay for their lease in their business, like restaurants and small businesses. Are you aware of what that's?
We're planning another press conference specifically as it relates to apartment owners and tenants, renters. That would be on Monday, and I will try to have an answer for you on Monday at the press conference.
Thank you, Roseanne.
To using NRG as a potential care facility for those COVID-19 patients. Do we have any, confirmation of this or a response to that?
I know that is a possible site. I don't know if they have firmed that up, but I know it's a possible site. Just like we are looking at different sites that could be at a capacity. The site we toured on Sunday, for example, it's ready now to be set up as a hospital. It has been serving as a hospital, 68 beds, 21 ICU beds, and it can expand. There's another hospital for example, in the Bel Air area as well that could be used. So we're all identifying potential sites now, just like we identified hotels, for our employees, and we finalized that deal this past Wednesday with City Council. We're looking at additional sites right now, and we'll have things ready to go once we get to that point. We're not going to wait until we need to go to plan C, but we're working with our hospitals right now for that added capacity, just in case it's needed.
Another question is for mitigating the spread of COVID-19 at area senior living facilities. For Brandon Walker, he wants to ask if, how is the state of senior living facilities and the spread of COVID-19, and is it a dire situation at this point?
And we, the City of Houston Health Department, and I think I can speak for Harris County Public Health as well in this, we're working with nursing homes, especially those who reached out to us, to bring our folks in there, to go over the processes, look at the floor plan, look at the movement, the flow of people within the facility. And also, you've got your traditional nursing home where people are often bedbound. And then you also have senior living facilities where the residents are far more mobile and have a far more social lifestyle. And so those different scenarios produce different challenges, because we certainly don't want people to have miserable lifestyles.